and welcome back to Anime Chan, where today we're going to be looking at my reaction highlights of episode 19, 20 and 21 of One Piece. So I promised you guys that whenever I can do more episodes, I definitely will. And yesterday I had some extra time, plus it was the beginning of a new arc, so I told myself, let's push for 3 episodes. Today's video is sponsored by a patron who really went the extra mile. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but Blackblade, thank you so much for being a patron, for chatting to me on Patreon, and just being such a kind and nice person. I really appreciate you, and it's because of people like you that I get to do what I love every day and work really hard to put as much content up on YouTube for you guys to enjoy as possible. So before we jump into my reaction highlights, I just want to say that I watched the 3 episodes last night, and then today I edited my reaction highlights and wrote my notes at the same time. And now, as usual, when I do my review, I go through my notes. I just want you guys to know this because you'll see my outfit change from yesterday to today. Plus, in the last episode, I was actually getting cold and I put on a hoodie. So it looks like I'm doing a lot of outfit changes during this video. But I don't think that takes anything away from the episode or my enjoyment of it or your enjoyment of the reaction highlights. So without further ado, enjoy them. I really need me some One Piece right now. Oh, that looks so nice to just chill on a fucking deck. A hard-earned cannon. The cannon master. Is he dreaming?
道場破りとは最近珍しいですね。
はい、お父様。なんだよ、お前が相手してくれるんじゃないのかよ。わかった。では中へお入りください。どれ使ってもいいのか？ははい。
神前に礼。
バカみて。
Little Zoro. Himself, the boy easily won his first 2 matches. The 3rd match proved to be more difficult, but after some time, his opponent became impatient and charged. The boy deftly used his one move to win the match. Still amazed by his success, the boy was now in the finals. This time, his opponent was bigger, stronger, and more experienced. For a while, the boy appeared to be overmatched. Concerned that the boy might get hurt, the referee called a timeout. He was about to stop the match when the sensei intervened. No, he insisted. Let him continue. Soon after the match resumed, his opponent made a critical mistake. He dropped his guard. That happens a lot in various anime, and then the side that was on the losing side quickly uses that gap and overpowers the other side, and people often complain and says that it's unrealistic, or they complain for many reasons, like people do. And this is actually, it happens a lot, and it's something to look out for. Instantly, the boy used his move to pin him once he dropped his guard. The boy had won the match and the tournament. He was the champion. On the way home, the boy and sensei reviewed every move in each and every match. Then the boy summoned the courage to ask what was really on his mind. Sensei, how did I win the tournament with only one move? You won for 2 reasons, the sensei answered. First, you've almost mastered one of the most difficult throws in all of judo. And second, the only known defense for that move is for your opponent to grab your left arm. The boy's biggest weakness had become his biggest strength because he didn't have a left arm, so his weakness was the reason why he won. That's what I meant when I talked about your mind determining whether your weakness really remains your weakness in life. I'm not sure if I actually cut that part out in the reaction because I wanted to leave it for the review part. Otherwise, I didn't just want to be repeating myself. The boy decided to try martial arts despite people telling him it's impossible because he's missing an arm. He tried anyway, and because of that inkling of hope and not just giving in or settling with his weakness, he found a way through his master's help, of course, where his apparent weakness actually became his biggest strength. That's why in the Western world today, I believe women are only held back by themselves believing that their gender is a weakness. There's a quote that I love that says, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." In truth, any gender can be a weakness depending on the person and the situation they are in, their environment, their dream, etc. But our objective in life should be finding a way to turn our apparent weakness into our strengths. People who do that achieve amazing things and become people that others look up to and are inspired by. We shouldn't wish for a life without weakness or without challenge. We should wish for the mental resolution to find a way to use our weakness to our advantage. At least that's what the episode made me think of. I also briefly mentioned not liking the Captain Marvel movie in the reaction. I don't feel like taking the time to explain why in a One Piece video why I didn't like Captain Marvel. So here's a link to a video that summarizes why I didn't really like it. So you can just check the notes and find this link to a video that explains why Captain Marvel was such a bad movie in my opinion. The only reason I'm pointing this out is because I do remember mentioning it at some point during talking about all of this women being weaker and stuff. So yeah, you can just go watch that. It explains it really well. Okay, to continue. It's not very often in anime, especially in shonen, that a main character actually dies. They always come very close to death, but usually it's kind of like side characters that actually die. Main characters usually die and then, oh wait, they're not dead. This is something that really happens in a lot of shonen anime, and I don't mind it at all because the story can't continue without its main characters, otherwise there's no point in telling the story. But as I was saying, in an episode where a main character loses someone else dear to them, a second character, it doesn't really affect me as much as other people because I haven't ever lost someone dear to me. People I know have died and I've been to a funeral, but that's not the same thing as losing someone like really close to you. There is a person in my life, and even my kitten Sky, whom I can't imagine losing. Like, even thinking about it makes me sad. It pains me just to think about it, but that's still a world away from knowing what it feels like to lose someone close to you. So I think that's why, although I felt sad for Zoro in this episode, I just hope people didn't expect me to cry, because I tear up often, but I don't really cry a lot. The only anime that has actually made me cry is Dororo. I liked seeing this part of Zoro's backstory so much. I hope that it goes even further back though at some point. I'd like to understand why he challenged the dojo in the first place and why it was so important for him to be strong. I understand that he was a kid and maybe he challenged the dojo because he actually kind of wanted to join. Because I mean, there were a bunch of other kids in the dojo, and how did they join? Their mothers probably took them and signed them up for the class. I don't know what this was. But I don't know where Zoro's mom is, and how does a tough kid join a dojo if he's kind of, too proud to say, like, I want to join? He challenges them and then see where it goes from there. But still, I think there has to be something that shaped him to be the kind of determined kid who was willing to take on the leader of a dojo. So I do hope they go into a bit more of Zoro's backstory at some point. And there is an airplane flying over. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Here's an interesting thing. One of my patrons told me there's a rumor or theory that Quira, why did I write Quira there? Is it Quira or Quina? I don't actually know. I'm gonna go with Quina. There's a rumor or theory that Quina killed herself, but based on the information given in the anime, I don't think anything hints to that. On the contrary, I believe the person she was shown to be and her promise with Zoro does not point to suicide. I don't think if more information or a different tone was portrayed in the manga. And then I write, okay, wait. As I'm typing this, I just remembered one of the men say, while they were all walking with her coffin in that scene, one of them said, "You can't understand humans." I guess that could be seen as a hint. However, the next person says, "Who knows what will happen tomorrow?" And I guess I just assumed that it may have been a bad translation. So whoever was talking here meant that death can come for anyone regardless of age. Kind of like how we can't understand human life or why these things happen, and no one knows what tomorrow may bring, regardless of how strong you think you are or how young you are. So yeah, I don't know. I hope the manga has a little more information on her death, just so I can make a more informed conclusion about this. I would like to know from you guys, what do you think? And then there's just a small little note here at the bottom. Luffy wants a musician. Everyone else wants a cook. Will they be able to find someone who is both? So yeah, that's what I thought at the end of episode 19. Okay, so now we're moving on over to my notes on episode 20. The famous cook Sanji of the floating restaurants. In this episode, when Yosaku is lying on the deck and everyone is worried about him, Nami makes her entrance very slowly and the music is very strange. It's like fairy music, like when Tinkerbell talks or flies in Peter Pan movies. So I don't know if you've ever watched a Peter Pan movie, but it's this tinkling noise, ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling. And I just found it weird. Like the scene was going on, and now every now and again it cuts to her and just her feet walking and that Tinkerbell music, and then cuts to the scene, and then like it's a very dramatic kind of entrance. I say this is strange because I don't know, I don't understand why there's so much emphasis put on her entrance here. Her arrival just seems to be really drawn out for some reason. It's not a bad thing, I'm just curious as to why. Then I wrote the definition for scurvy that I found online: a disease caused by deficiency of vitamin C, characterized by swollen bleeding gums and the opening of previously healed wounds, which particularly affected poorly nourished sailors until the end of the 18th century. So I make a few, every time it's a new paragraph, it's usually a new note. So the next one is just a very short note. A pirate named Hawkeye is mentioned in this episode, a pirate that Zoro was apparently hunting. I just think this is important to remember. Names and dates and number or like years passing, you'll see I make some notes on that later on as well. I think those are the kind of things that I should remember, so that's why I'm taking these small notes. There's also a brief scene where Nami looks at a poster and looks quite murderous. I only noticed this while editing and had to double check. The poster she was looking at says Arlong, and although it's hard to see the picture perfect while editing because the opacity of the episode is at like at 79%, because while I'm watching the episode, I use OBS, so it automatically links the audio and the screen for me, and as it's recording, it's already at 79% opacity, like how you guys see it, but I watch in full opacity, just letting you know. Anyway, on that picture, the guy's nose looks as long as Usopp's nose, but 10 times as sharp. So I'm not sure if I saw it correctly, but it looked like he has a really pointy nose. Okay, the marine guy with the pink hair, I think his name is Full Body I remembered it later, but while I was making the notes, I forgot it. Says to sink Luffy's ship. This makes me wonder, at that time, was it the law that Marines were supposed to do that, like attack and destroy all pirates, like anyone with a Jolly Roger? So he knew they were pirates because of the flag, right? And if you're just flying the flag, does that mean that it gave a Marine a right to attack you and sink your ship, even if like he has no idea who they were or if they had done anything wrong by then? And they haven't. What I mean is, were they allowed to punish anyone flying that flag regardless of whether they're even wanted or not? In other words, I guess my question is, did just calling yourself a pirate give Marines a right to attack? One more thing, this is what I read about Jolly Rogers. So I found this online. Jolly Roger is the traditional English name for the flags flown to identify a pirate ship about to attack during the early 18th century. The later part of the golden age of piracy. It went on to become the most commonly used pirate flag during the 1720s, although other designs were also in use. I have two questions based on this. The first question, why does it seem like the pirates in One Piece fly their Jolly Roger all the time? If it's just meant to be put up before an attack, or maybe it's just Luffy and them, because I don't remember. I remembered that Alvira woman at the start was flying her flag, but I don't know if she just put it up before attacking. Anyway, my second question is, why on earth would pirates fly a Jolly Roger before an attack in the first place? Why would you declare you're about to attack if you're a pirate? Is it some kind of honor thing? But I didn't know pirates in real life were that honorable. On a not so related note, I'm really enjoying learning more about this part of history because pirates really existed, and it's just interesting to learn about these real life things like scurvy, Jolly Rogers, and yeah, it's interesting to learn about these things through this anime. One of my favorite genres of anime is like samurai kind of anime because it shows me that part of Japan's history, and it doesn't romanticize it. It really shows you the good and the bad of that period of time and that culture. So I really love learning about cultures. When I was studying at university, my majors were language, like I was studying a bachelor's degree in language and culture. So I am very interested in languages and how that connects us and, you know, communication between people of different cultures, because our cultures shape who we are as people. So yeah, I never knew what I wanted to be while growing up. I just always knew that I was very interested in being creative, languages, and especially English at the time, and yeah, culture. And I'm actually the kind of person that really loves learning. I love to learn, as you guys can see with my essay reviews. I'm that kind of person that likes talking and understanding and trying to delve deeper into things. So I am the kind of person that loves learning, but I didn't fare very well in university, not with regards to my marks. Like, my scores were really well, but what I mean is I get very anxious, and like my anxiety kind of is way too overwhelming with exams and stuff. It was really difficult for me to cope at the time, so I actually ended up dropping out. But it wasn't just because of my anxiety. It wasn't at all because my grades weren't great. There was quite a few other things surrounding that decision. I dropped out 7 weeks before my final exams, before I got my degree. But yeah, that's not something I need to talk about in a One Piece video. Maybe at some point, if you guys care about who I am as a person, maybe for some of you I'll do a live stream and we can talk about our personal history a bit. I think that would be fun to get to know some of you better. Later in the reaction, after the whole wine incident with the pink-haired Marine, I click why the Marine was so distraught. He had tried to set it up so that his date and everyone would be very impressed with him immediately recognizing the wine based on its taste. I was very confused as to why this happened. Why Sanji chose to give him the wrong wine. Was there some reason he wanted to embarrass the Marine guy? But a patron has already made it clear that it was of course because the waiters had left the day before. So that means Sanji was waitering in their stead and was probably not aware about the pre-selected wine. I think Sanji's reaction was a little uncalled for. Although the Marine is an asshole, we've seen him, you know, in action out of the restaurant. At that point, he didn't really do anything to deserve that kind of treatment as a customer. I worked as a waitress for a long time, and I also believe in treating a customer with respect as far as possible, just like Patty. At this point in the reaction, I didn't know, of course, that these were pirates being chefs. But that's not an excuse either, because Patty is rowdy and rough too, but he understands why it's important to at least be cordial with your customers. So yeah, my first impression of Sanji was not that great, but not that bad either, because I know the Marine is an asshole, so it's not like I cared all that much. But if I hadn't seen his behavior before, if I hadn't seen Full Body's behavior before this point, I think I would have been very taken aback. Obviously later I understand a little better why wasting food, since the Marine knocked the whole table with all the food, would make Sanji very angry. But like I explained already, Sanji was already being patronizing even before the guy did anything, from what I think Sanji could have seen at this point. But like I explained already, Sanji was already being patronizing even before the guy did anything really wrong in the restaurant. Like, I mean, sure, it's like kind of stupid to have a pre-selected wine and act like you know what it is, but that's not really doing something wrong. The way that Sanji told him it's not that wine, and he kind of put the spoon in his hand, like, it's a very degrading scene from the perspective of a server, even if he's assistant chef, and a customer, a client. Okay, but I guess based on an image I noticed later and other hints at Sanji's character in episode 21, he's probably a womanizer and doesn't like men in general and just treats them with less respect than women. For example, in episode 21, Sanji is busy pouring a lady's wine and the man at that table looks visibly pissed off at Sanji. There was an image, like a short image, I did point it out in my reaction at the time, in the video earlier. The woman was like looking really swooning, and he was pouring her wine, and the guy was in that screenshot or in that image scene, I mean, he was holding his glass and looking really angry at Sanji. So I think that hints at his character as well. And he even wait, I think I wrote this. Upon seeing Nami, Sanji just tells the man to pour it yourself in quite a rude tone. So yeah, although he did make me ooh-woo in the next episode when he helped Gin and what he said to him, I honestly don't have a good first impression of his personality at this point. On a sort of related note, the pink-haired guy Sanji assaults is the second powerful marine, like a leader of sorts, that we are introduced to, and just like Axe-Hand Morgan, he's not a decent guy. So the marines aren't looking all that great for me at the moment either. I just arrived at a point in the editing where they say the pink-haired guy's name again, full body. Now I won't forget. Okay, so that's just while I was making my notes, I was editing too. So then I probably got to a point in the editing where I think that girl, the girl that he was on a date with, she said his name. So then I obviously remembered. Anyway, last note on episode 20. Luffy said while talking to the head chef that he's been waiting 10 years to follow his dream of being a pirate. If he's 17 years old, like a few viewers have pointed out, I think that's how old people have said he was. That means he was around 7 when he met Shanks and was inspired to become a pirate. This is just what I think. I'm not sure if that matters, but setting up a kind of linear timeline for myself would be helpful as time goes on. Like I mentioned earlier, I think it's very important for me to write down names that are said and, you know, like dates and general year stuff. Okay, so the next episode was episode 21, An Unexpected Guest, Sanji's Food and Gin's Grace. The episode starts with Patty, and for some reason I really find his character funny and likable. So that was just my first impression of Patty. But I also do remember him saying some stuff that made me think, that made my face go like, from, like I was so confused. Like I was like, oh my gosh, he's so funny, but wait, what did he mean with that? Something like that. A lot of things went through my mind during and after the scene where Gin arrives with a gun and asks for food. So this is me overthinking, but it's just how I think, so bear with me. Patty politely asked him, Gin, if he had money to pay for the meal, because in any restaurant, this guy just escaped from the Marines. The Marine guy ran in to tell them, and then he shot him. So Patty very politely asked him, do you have money to pay? Whereafter Gin sticks the gun in Patty's face after just having killed a Marine with it, so we know it wasn't an empty threat. One could say Patty then defends himself by hitting Gin, but he continues to beat him up to the point where it's no longer necessary, since the gun was already not in his hand and he was a starving man, so there's no way that he could fight back. But I mean, Gin just killed a man. I don't know, the right thing to do in the situation seems very vague, and I guess that's the whole point. But I mean, think about it, if that was real life and I was in a restaurant and someone just came in and shot a Marine, and one of the chefs, protected us basically, I wouldn't see Patty as wrong for doing what he did. Towards the end of the episode though, it seems like Gin sincerely thanked Sanji for the meal and asked if he could come again. Sanji says anytime, I'm sure they will see him again sooner than they thought. So yeah, it's pretty clear at this point, I'm not really sure how to feel about Gin and Patty and Sanji giving him food. I mean, yes, it's very like, it was a very nice moment, understanding like why Sanji decided to give a starving man food, and he was like crying about how good it was, and it was so sweet. But if all restaurants gave food away for free to pirates, like they'd kind of go out of business. So on one hand, I can understand why that all of that happened, but on the other hand, I can also understand why Sanji reached out to him. So yeah, my thoughts on this was just like very like, ooh, but wait, he killed a man, ooh. So I don't know, I was very confused. During my full reaction, I said a lot about the part where the head chef tells Sanji they don't need him anymore, but I decided to cut it out of the reaction and put it here in my notes and the review part instead. Basically what I said is, I have a suspicion that the head chef is saying this to Sanji just to get him to leave. to help him or for Sanji's own good, if that makes sense. Remember, like in movies like Lassie or I don't know, dog movies, sometimes the kid or the person kicks sand in the dog's face and chases him like, go away, I hate you. And then the dog runs away, but then it's only because the person wanted to protect the dog in some way, because I don't know, they knew someone was coming to kill the dog, so they even in Game of Thrones that once happened, where they basically chased the animal away to protect it. So it comes out of a place of love, you know? And that's what I thought about in this situation. The fact that he saw Sanji prepare the rice and didn't stop him, Sanji being the assistant chef, second highest rank on the Barati. Sanji threw a plate, glass and cutlery in the ocean in front of the head chef to hide the evidence. All of that leads me to believe that the head chef clearly respects Sanji a lot, but it just doesn't seem like the Barati and its rules are fit for Sanji, because he looks unhappy there. I don't know, he walks around with this sullen look on his face, and then, okay, at the end, you see kind of his real personality comes out when he falls in love with Nami. But in all the other scenes, he looks like this kind of moody. He's not even badass. He is badass, and he does badass things, but he's more, his energy just makes me feel like he feels like he has to hold himself back in that environment where he can't be himself entirely. I guess that's also why like he's shown very passive aggressive, and not just passive aggressive. It started as passive aggressive and then became aggressive behavior all throughout these episodes. So that's why I feel like, and that's why I said, it just doesn't seem like the Barati and its rules are fit for Sanji. At the end of the episode, we see Gin talking to Captain Krieg about what had happened. At first I thought maybe they want to go back and thank Sanji for saving his life. Because basically Sanji protected one of his men. So if there are honorable kind of pirates, they'd want to go back and, you know, thanks for saving my man. Here's the ship back that you gave him. I don't know. But then at the very end, Gin looks really ominous, and so is the music, while he says, let me lead the way to the floating restaurant, Barati. That made me wonder if they were going to go back and fight them. I don't know, like, you know, fight them because he was beat up also on the ship, you know? I don't know, maybe the ominous look and music was just to throw us off, like, because it was the end of the next episode. They were supposed to like build excitement, and then it was to be continued, so you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. I'll have to wait and see. So those are my notes on these episodes. I actually really enjoyed watching the episodes, uploading them, making short notes after each episode, and then while editing, I was actually expanding on my notes. That to me was a better way of doing it. So I think I'm going to keep doing it this way. But what that means is that I will probably do reactions, edit while doing my notes, and then the next day, because I watched this on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday I finish my editing, I finish my notes, and then I do the review part where I read through my notes, edits and upload. So by Wednesday evening, my videos are always up. So yeah, I'll probably usually be in a different outfit on the next day after watching, because I watch One Piece in the evenings when I have time. So thank you guys so much for listening to my thoughts on these episodes. I'm really enjoying One Piece, of course. It gives me so much to think about, and honestly, so far the fandom has been one of the nicest fandoms I've ever come across. I know it's still early days, but a lot of fandoms start out nice, and then as you actually start, like, you're not just introducing yourself to the anime anymore. When you're actually a fan and you see yourself as a One Piece, like, part of the fandom, sometimes a fandom's attitude towards you can change when you're not just having fun, and like, there could be parts that I don't agree with, or parts that I feel differently about compared to you. And yeah, I've had it in the past where a fandom literally feels like it starts out so well and everyone's like excited that a new person is in the fandom, and then when you actually start having opinions about, because at first you're just, you know, kind of introducing yourself to what they're a fan about, but later you start developing your own opinions as you become a bigger and bigger fan, and it was like the fandom just became, this is for something else on my other channel, the fandom just, it's like they didn't show their true face. Or maybe as more and more people started watching, the bad side, the bitter people in the fandom started coming out of their holes. I don't know. I really hope that we can continue to watch and enjoy One Piece together. Thank you again to Blackblade for sponsoring this video and for being a patron. I'm really looking forward to the next video, and I hope to see you guys there. Bye!